All right, all right. What's going on, guys? I recently came across a study that said only about 52% of Americans are drinkers or drinking or participating in drinking culture, and that this was supposed to be some kind of major win. This is fantastic news. This is the lowest it's ever been since I believe the study cited 1939, which is interesting because that's right around the end, if I remember correctly, of prohibition, that kind of thing. So it kind of makes sense that the levels would have risen to kind of an all-time high at the time. But it is quite interesting that now fewer and fewer people are picking up the bottle, especially people from my generation, succeeding generations. Um, and I know this is framed as a major win, as people being a lot more health conscious in general. You know, the health and wellness, like life coach industry is booming. I believe it's in the trillions at this point. But I do believe we have to look beneath the surface a little bit because, yes, even though we now have irrefutable information, data from studies um, that is about the damage caused by drinking, which might influence people's decision to leave it alone. I do think there are some other factors at play here, right? And one is that when I go out in the world, I find that people are a lot less sociable, right? People are a lot less likely to engage, to stop what they're doing for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, have a conversation. Um, so much as small talk might allow, not having to having not having to spill your entire life story or write a fucking novel for somebody you just met, but you're in an elevator or something, or I don't know, you end up in a situation where it's either you sit in this excruciating, painfully awkward silence, or you just kind of chit chat. And that's something I actually enjoy. However, a lot less people are engaging in that, I'm finding. And I'll, you'll see why I'm making this point, right? I believe one of the factors that is causing a decline in drinking, especially with the up and coming generations, the Gen Z, millennials, those that follow, I guess. I don't know if I think Gen Alpha is still like fucking kids and shit. But anyway, I think it has a lot to do with the recent pandemic, right? COVID and things of that nature, where everyone pretty much became a recluse, everybody became a hermit. And I think being social, or the ability to be sociable, if that's the correct way to word that, it's like a muscle, right? You either use it or you lose it. It's like going to the gym, the second you stop hitting arms, you get all frail. But that's neither here nor there. I do believe because alcohol traditionally is a social activity, and people are nowadays a lot less social, or a lot less likely to go out to these social gatherings or social events such as parties, house party. You know the kind when we were in high school and you would maybe sneak out of the house or something. You're in a car or two full of your boys, you're 8, 10, 12 deep. You're rolling through. You've got one bottle between the 11, 12 of you, right? But then you get there and you know how the story goes. I feel like there's not so much of that going on anymore, amongst other things. The lack of desire to go out to a bar, to your local watering hole, right? That's not as appealing to those of my generation, right? So I think that plays a factor as well, is that people aren't drinking as much just because people are not socializing as much. Um, Even so far as the little small talk, chit chat, the elevator conversation, right? If you're not even doing that, how can you bring yourself into a social situation where it is completely acceptable and even in some cases encouraged to drink, right? So I don't think it's this major W that is being portrayed as, although it is good, obviously. We know now through irrefutable evidence that alcohol is poison. I actually think it's literally poison, getting drunk is the effect of poisoning yourself, right? Or something like this. You can look it up, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think that plays one aspect, but I do think there's a flip side that might not be the healthiest alternative, but is becoming a lot more popular, and that is smoking. Smoking weed, marijuana, cannabis. I don't think I've ever said that. God damn, I feel old. Uh, so yeah, I'm finding that when I go out in public now, I smell weed everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, I remember back in high school when we used to be 4 or 5 deep in a car. We had just smoked a couple J's down, and we were having the time of our lives. We're about to go raid Sheets or 7-Eleven or something, Wawa, if you know what I'm talking about, in the Nova area. But we go hit that up, get the $5 app platter with the boom boom sauce on the side, and eyes all low, boofing, reeking a pack, and understanding full well that we were just a walking cloud of weed aroma, right? We would get the looks, we would get the Karen side eyeing and things, maybe pulling little Timmy closer to themselves, right? And it was just such a carefree experience, but it wasn't everywhere, right? It was in these little pockets. You knew who was, you knew who wasn't. Nowadays, though, I feel like I go outside and I just get smacked in the face with za, right? Everywhere I go, it's just bear pack in the air, fam. I mean, who is even putting that shit in the air like that? People are on gummies. People are hitting pens on the subway, on buses while they're driving, just blowing bare weed smoke out the car. And I do think that, as I previously said, this is not the healthy alternative that people think it is, although it is a part of the reason why I think there's a decline in alcohol consumption because people are resorting to other substances, mainly weed. I feel like it's being maybe not encouraged or pushed, but it's making, or rather, I think it's broken into the mainstream now. To say that you smoke weed is not this edgy thing that it used to be. It's not like, oh, that guy's a stoner, bro, or like fucking where all my deadheads at, right? It's not that the white guy that's got dreads past his ear and he wears a drug rug. You remember those ugly pieces of shit people used to wear their fucking Romanian grandmother's carpet as a fucking hoodie, and they thought they thought they had that shit on. I mean, what a wild time 2016 was. But yeah, as I was saying, I think people are just opting to entertain alternatives to drinking. And the reason why I say I don't think that's the healthiest thing in the world is because, as someone who was an avid smoker, I mean, somebody who you could argue, made excuses to smoke, like, bro, it helps me sleep, it boosts my appetite, right? To make sure I'm hitting my caloric intake goals and things of that nature. Oh, I got insomnia. My mind's restless. Oh, I just want to relax. It's been a long day. So I'm going to just put one in the air real quick and I'm going to pass out. And sure, that statement or statements, they were accurate to an extent, though. To an extent, right? What I'm finding now is somebody who has been able to give it up. I say been able loosely. I'm not somebody that has an addictive personality, but I do understand the allure of weed consumption and how easy it is to convince yourself that this is indeed a miracle drug, that this is something that is not harmful, right? I'm not going to crash my car because I have had one too many and I kill a family of six. You know what I mean? You don't really associate these kinds of things or that kind of behavior, that level of degeneracy with weed, at least not anymore, right? There definitely was a stigma back in the day for weed smokers, like, oh, that guy's a loser, that guy's a bum, he's just smoking weed. Oh, there's fucking so the pothead, you get me, fucking coming to school reeking. And you know who I'm talking about. I'm sure you can even put a face or a name to the image in your mind. But like I said, as somebody who has given that up and gone through the withdrawals, I guess, of, I don't think withdrawal is an accurate representation of giving up weed. I really think it's just making that adjustment, right? Like anything, let's say you change time zones, right? You have to give your body time to acclimate, right? To recenter your circadian rhythm, to get back into whatever routine you had at the times that you had it, right? Which is doable. It's more than doable. Sure, it's inconvenient in the short term, but in the long term, it's more beneficial that you do that rather than, as I said, go to another time zone and you insist on maintaining your routine to a T. I mean, come on. Anybody with two brain cells to rub together will tell you that it's not realistic. So I say that to say this: as somebody who has given it up for good, I have really, really come to enjoy the mental clarity that it brings, because one of the side effects of weed consumption, especially on a regular basis, is that of a foggy mind, right? I would convince myself that, oh, bro, if I want to relax, I'm going to just go and hit this indica, right? Indica in the couch. I'm going to just sink into the cushions, right? I'm going to go and get my poppy, my prebiotic soda for the win. Come on, we don't do no high fructose corn syrup, boys. Um, and I'm gonna just chill. I'm gonna order some Domino's or something. I'm gonna relax. But if I want to think, if I want my mind to race, if I want to get creative or scratch that creative itch, right, then I'm gonna go ahead and put some sativa in the air, right? I might not be as loosey goosey, right? But at the end of the day, when you fast forward to the following morning, that is when and only when you experience that brain fog, in my opinion. It's so easy that after having put some sativa in the air to tell yourself that, wow, I'm just getting so many ideas. I should work on my business. I should paint this picture. I should blah, 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 make some music or something. I just want to go out. I want to touch grass. I want to go look at a river or something. It's very easy to convince yourself that the act of smoking enhances all of those experiences. But come morning is when I would experience this profound grogginess, right? Just not tired, but not fully there either. It's like present, but absent, there, but not there. And I feel as though it would take me several hours in the morning to really kind of shake that. But what ends up happening is, with many of us regular weed smokers, consumers, edible eaters, whatever you want to say, is by the end of that same morning when you woke up all groggy and whatnot, after you just put in a long shift, or maybe you had a hectic day of running errands, chasing kids around or something, it's very easy to want to treat yourself. And that's always how we phrase it, like, this is not so much me consuming a narcotic, if it's even still classified as that. I've heard about some potential executive orders to lower its classification, but again, that's neither here nor there. I just think it's very easy for us to convince ourselves that this is a treat, right? I've earned this. And by this, I mean the right to relax. And the weed helps me relax. Or I can't sleep, therefore I will smoke a little bit and then I will relax and be able to sleep, right? It's very easy to fall into this cycle. I used to do it all the time, all the time. I really used to argue, in fact, that no, dude, weed is a miracle drug. What are you talking about? I'm able to sleep, I'm creative, I can relax, it puts my mind at ease. But I think that the most unfortunate side effect is that of the foggy mind, because it really inhibits your ability to problem solve rationally, in my opinion. Can you go through your day? Can you go through the motions? Can you, I'm not recommending this, get behind the wheel, right? You trust your abilities, as I did. Um, sure, you can. It's not going to inebriate you the same way alcohol will. I will give it that much. However, is it the best alternative? From my current position in life, I will argue no. Maybe if you had spoken to 16-year-old me who swore that on my deathbed I'd still be blazing bass skunk and that, go out like a Cheech and Chong member. I never saw that movie. I think it's fucking corny if I'm being honest, even just from the trailer. So that was a reference that was doomed from the beginning. But like I said, it's very easy to convince ourselves to do something we already want to do, right? You can always make an argument for something you are set in doing. You can always do that. But what I'm finding now, being for the most part sober, maybe I'll have a drink or something, little shot or two of whiskey, really enjoy it, right? Um, the smoking I really had to give up completely, just because on the one hand, not only did it cause the foggy mind, uh, I also feel as though I can't really, I don't know if I can't handle it. More so, what is this shit today, dude? I mean, I feel like if I remember back to 2015, 2016, 2017, even these were my sophomore, junior, senior years of high school. And all I can remember from smoking during this time is just having a blast. I mean, going out hiking, going to the movies, even just going out and about riding skateboards or something, playing soccer for my high school team, right? And it was just so fun. It was so enjoyable. I mean, we used to piss ourselves laughing. You know what I mean? Like we would have these fits where it's like you could not stop and you would try your hardest, right? Your ribs are hurting, your stomach hurts, right? But nowadays, having smoked, recently enough, uh I just don't get that anymore. I don't experience that carefree, um get the giggles and all that. I don't experience that anymore, and I feel as though it doesn't last as long, and it almost feels like chemically feel I don't know, feels like it's full of chemicals or something. I have no evidence for this, right? It just feels like I would spark a J and I'd smoke it and I'd be calm, right? For an hour, hour and a half, maybe two if I decided to face this one. But then almost like you were driving off a cliff, it would just kind of stop. Like there were the remnants of there. It'd almost be like you're at 100% and you go all the way down to 12%, right? And that 12% being there lets you know, okay, yes, like I'm aware that I had smoked today, but other than that, 2 hours later, I don't feel anything, right? And that just was not the case back in the day. And I don't want to get all conspiratorial or anything, but I really think that because of the legalization and or decriminalization, depending on where you're at, which state you're from, uh, with that came not only regulations, but also like anything, like any business model, how can we profit the most, right? By not necessarily putting out the best of products, right? You don't have to look very far for examples of this. Just go to your local grocery store, pick up a box of Fruit Loops or some other cancer causing concoction, right? That we're putting in our bodies, or well, you shouldn't be, but and just read the ingredient list, right? Half the shit on there I've never heard of. More than half the shit I can't even pronounce. And maybe that's happening with the cannabis industry, right? Not to get all unk status on you guys, but again, not to get conspiratorial or anything, but I really just think that trading one vice for another, as in, yeah, I don't drink, but I definitely smoke. I don't think that this should be encouraged. I don't think that this should be. I mean, we're already past the point of normalization, right? And again, you have people on both sides of the fence. You know, those who don't care. Oh, it's your life. Do whatever you want. And of course, I feel the same way. If you're going to smoke, you're gonna smoke, dude. Like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not a fucking life coach or a therapist or something. I don't have the blueprint. You definitely should not follow my example. I've made many mistakes in my short life, but I just think there's an argument for giving it all up, right? And maybe not cold turkey. You don't have to go fucking none status, right? Like, yo, maybe I drink in excess, but now I'm never gonna fucking let another bottle touch my. Like, bro, you don't have to be like that. Every once in a while, you want a nightcap, cool. Maybe every once in a while, you want to put some smoke in the air real quick. I mean, I guess. I just think from my experience of having been an avid smoker, I mean, smoking religiously, daily, multiple times a day, to now not even thinking about it. It doesn't even cross my mind. I don't even miss it. I guess you could say the whole reason why I even picked it back up again after coming home was really for no other reason than the nostalgia, because thinking back on 2016 and just the times me and the boys used to have, being all geeked up and everything. I think that's why I even decided to open that door again. But after, I don't want to say prolonged, but after some regular use, eventually, man, I kind of just outgrew it, right? And I don't mean that to belittle anybody that enjoys it still to this day. More power to you. I will never say that I don't like it, that I hate it. It's the devil's fucking lettuce, right? All I'm saying is it's not what it used to be for me. I do think that there are several reasons for that. Um, some you might be able to prove, others maybe are a little more nuanced or anecdotal. But yeah, for me, I would just say that it is far better living a sober life, right? I will have my suffering sober, or how does that fucking meme go? I don't know. Maybe I'll try to find it and put it up here or something. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, although it's good that Gen Z, millennials, and hopefully those that come after us are starting to put the bottle down, are beginning to neglect the local watering hole and things of that nature, and aren't really getting into the whole drinking culture that we used to have, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, especially going to sporting events and things where it's almost expected, right? Nobody's going to bat an eye. Um, yes, that is good, but I also think we should not stop there and claim victory. I also think we should pivot, right, to some of the other things, mostly marijuana, that people are deciding to replace alcohol with. And I think we should say, hey, even though this is available, even though this is out there, even though this is quote unquote regulated, to what degree or extent, I don't know. Maybe you can find out. I didn't feel like I wanted to put in the time to research all of that shit, right? I'm just kind of riffing, but I do think there's an argument to be had for the fact that we should not be replacing one vice for another. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it is better if you can just go through life with as clear of a mind as possible. It allows you to be at your optimal processing capabilities, right? Mentally, I think you can make more rational decisions on a more regular basis, not being inhibited by any one substance. But like I said previously, I'm not a fucking life coach. I don't have the answers. You know, if you're smoking while listening to this, amen. Maybe a couple years ago, I would have loved to be in the rotation with you. But at this point, I just think that it is a positive that the later generations of today, Gen Z, millennials, and things, are putting down alcohol. That is fantastic. But let's not replace that with yet another vice. I guess you could say that is my point with this. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. This is Wicks the Bored, and this is just the beginning.